The information and views expressed by our host or guests on the Unlock Potential podcast are their own, and not a substitute for professional medical or fitness advice. Always consult with qualified healthcare or fitness professionals before starting any new exercise program or making changes to your current routine.
This episode of Unlock Potential contains visual demonstrations and instruction. If you are listening to the audio version of our podcast, consider also checking out the video at thebriandelaney.com.
Having more weight on you impedes your progress. Carrying an extra 40 pounds up a flight of stairs makes you more tired. The more tired you are, the slower you are to think. The slower you are to think, the longer it takes to make powerful decisions. And the space between powerful, correct decisions directly impacts your success in the long run.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Unlock Potential. I'm Brian Delaney. Our focus this season is fitness. I'll be joined by Dr. Corey Duvall, who's going to guide us through his protocol for getting into your best shape so we can live our best lives and serve others well. Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of the episode, Strong Enough to Go Deep, Deep Enough to Go Strong. The first time we've actually done a second part of an episode. Not the first time we should have, but actually the first time we have for sure. There was a lot to process in that first part, a lot of really great content. You breaking down the connections between the beliefs, the disempowering versus empowering stories, what we need, what we don't need. There was a lot to this, to that episode. And so we just wanted to break it up so that we could have this time to put the two together. You would have the time to process, really get the download. So we wanted to start this episode off with just saying, if you haven't seen part 1, go to part 1. Then come revisit us in part 2. Excited to have you back with us. Thanks for joining us again. Here we go. One of the beliefs, and this is a belief I talk about very regularly when I'm talking to my growing sales team, my growing leaders on my sales team especially, is the difference between people who are successful, who are happy, who are fit, and those who are not experiencing success, happiness, fitness in their life. A lot of times are the beliefs around that. The disempowering belief that the person who's successful, fit, happy, that they have way more resources, they have way better circumstances, and if only I had those resources and I had those circumstances, I would be happy, healthy, and wealthy too, right? Where I find the truer belief around that is that the people who are happy, healthy, and wealthy, right, actually need a lot less to initiate that action that the other person needs a lot to. I need to wake up on time. I need my kids to be ready to go to school on time. I need my work not to need me. I need to have had just the right dinner and just the right breakfast and just the right amount of sleep and just the right amount of energy when I woke up and just the list gets long so they can't ever show up. So if you find yourself not showing up to the gym, it's probably because you have a long list of things, right? Whereas people who are happy, healthy, and wealthy may have I need to get out of my bed and I grab my cup of coffee before I leave the door, right? They have a very short list of needs because whether they're going or not that's inevitable.
Exactly.
The choice has already been made. Can you talk a little bit about your encounters personally and professionally with that?
Oh, yeah. So you have to set a structure of the things that need to get done every day. And you have to have freedom between that edges of that framework. So it comes down to prioritizing and quite clearly figuring out what exactly you need to get done and then letting everything else kind of fill in the gaps. And so if you set get up at this time is what needs to be done and you build that habit, that occurs. Mm-hmm. If get to the gym or get your kids to school, or get to work on time, or pay the bills before the end of the month, or speak kindly to your spouse, or make sure you check in with your family every 3 weeks because they live across the country, or you figure out which things you need to survive every single day, and then you do just the things that you need to survive. And anything that didn't get done at the end of that day, the next day, you realize whether you fell behind or not. Mm. And over time, you just adjust that list. And if you start skipping the gym, you're going to start to feel the fact that you're skipping the gym, and the sign is that that is a need. If you start ignoring your spouse throughout the day and you get to the next day, you're going to start feeling the fact that you ignored your spouse, and that's something that needs to happen. If you start finding that missing this or including that doesn't negatively impact your life, you get to let those go, and those aren't the things that need to get done.
That's great. That's great. I love that, just in line with our episode title of Strong Enough to Go Deep. Like, strong enough to go deep and figure out what's freaking important enough to you, right? Once you're at that depth, now you're deep enough to go strong. Now you can start to set those things with some authority. Stop being somebody who complains that they're a victim while they let themselves be carried away from the moment's needs, other people's needs, all of that stuff, which isn't vital. It's not vital most of the time. Only if we leave it away, it's like, no, I had to do it. Yeah, you had to do it now because you didn't do it 2 weeks ago. Because you didn't do it while it was important. Now you have to do it while it's urgent, knocking something else important out.
Yes.
And if you're a business owner, if you're in a place where you have multiple children, if you're in a situation, maybe you live in Utah, you have multiple wives, who knows? We could be talking to anybody, really. But if you're in that situation where you have a lot going on, it just increases the priority for you to figure out what you must have and what you can't have.
Yeah.
Like, we have to start differentiating that. We have to be strong enough mentally, have enough fortitude to go deep into that, to ask ourselves those real questions, so that our life isn't just a series of winds changing direction, blowing us in whatever way they will, and then at the end of it, wondering why we didn't do what we felt purpose to do.
Exactly.
Right? So when we're deep enough to go strong, and we're strong enough to go deep, what we realize is that part of that is, I'm not going to blame my busy schedule for my attitude anymore. I'm not going to blame these outside circumstances for my attitude, because I believe that each one of you who's watching this can choose to feel poorly right now. You can choose to feel bad. You can choose to feel angry. You can choose that. So if that's the case, on the heavy emotion side, can't we choose the light emotions as well? Can't we choose to feel happy? Can't we choose to feel proud? Can't we choose to feel energized? So if it's all a choice, can't we just be strong enough to start making those choices where they really matter? What's important, how I want to feel, what's going to support that, and the things that I need to do in order to build that and more in my environment. And that becomes really powerful, because we're not in this place where it's like, I want to continue to live this life, but I feel weighed down. And they look at themselves and they're in the position that I was, right? Or in the position that a lot of people find themselves. I went to the store the other day, could not find a size small shirt for my son. They only do medium through 3XL. That's all they do, because that's who they're selling to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I found myself a few years ago in the same position that many Americans find themselves in the most obese country in the world, right? Where they've done everything for everybody else. They never figured out what was important to themselves. They let their coping from that, which became their emotional eating, their detachment to their own appetite, allowed them to gain weight. Now they just feel like they're held down and held back by that fat, right? I hear you talking a lot about releasing energy and kind of that inverse empowering story. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I want to go back briefly and draw a little distinction between feelings and actions. It's what we do when we feel good and what we do when we feel bad that dictates our progress over time. It's not feeling bad and choosing to feel good. It's feeling bad and choosing to do right. It's feeling good and choosing to do right, not feeling good and then saying, I can let it go because I'm in a good place. It's always choosing what is right and then feeling the appropriate path from there.
I guess more of what I was pointing to was adopting a perspective that's also true. That's more, because everybody has perspectives that are available to them that are true. And there's more than one, right? A lot of people will adopt the victimized perspective rather than the empowered perspective.
Got it. Yes.
That more than emotions,
Yes.
it's perspectives that I'm more referencing. So I
Yes.
appreciate you tuning that up.
Yeah. So you can feel sad and realize that sadness is an opportunity, or you can realize that sadness is happening to you and you can't go to the gym because you feel sad. So I think we're on the same page.
Oh yeah,
on that.
100%.
And so now you mentioned excess weight weighing us down. I mean, quite literally carrying an extra 40 pounds up a flight of stairs makes you more tired. The more tired you are, the slower you are to think. The slower you are to think, the longer it takes to make powerful decisions. And the space between powerful, correct decisions directly impacts your success in the long run. Can you make the decision by the end of the week, or is it spilling over into the next week? Can you make the decision by the end of the day, or are you rushing and then making the wrong decision because you didn't think well about it throughout the day? And so literally having more weight on you makes you more tired and impedes your progress. That being said, ignoring your hunger and creating a famine situation is not the solution to ignoring your satiation and adding food to it. So you feel satiated and you keep eating, that's a problem that causes extra weight. You feel hungry and you ignore it, that's not the solution either. The solution is to get to a place where your body understands that it can release the weight that you have added so far and utilize that as energy. And that comes through efficient energy over time. So when you exercise, you're teaching your body to do more with less. When you exercise when you're tired, you're teaching your body to use enzymes to get more done with less. When you're getting more done with less, your body is less inclined to want more, which means your appetite comes down. When your appetite comes down and you listen to that, you're starting to release the energy that you have stored up in your body fat. As you release that energy that's stored up in your body fat, you don't have to take a lunch break. It gets to noon and you sit there for a moment and you realize you're not hungry because you've exercised consistently for the last 3 months. And now you've got an extra hour that's super powerful. Your brain is fresh, your body is energized, and you get ahead in that hour. More done in that hour than all of the hours you would have gotten sleeping in and avoiding exercise because you were tired. And it's about putting in that work for those small opportunities in the future, which is what makes you progress, makes you successful, and find that progress.
That's great. And it's like when I learned about the 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, and that a calorie was a unit of energy, I just started looking at myself. I'm like, I am an energy factory, baby.
Yes.
I'm like at a 25 BMI. I'm at like a 22% body fat index. It's wild. I was like, if I can ever figure out how to leverage this, right? If I can, because I knew that I also, not only when I ate when I wasn't hungry, did I have brain fog and did I get sleepy?
Yes.
Right. That's what I noticed. So it wasn't just the hour I took eating, it was the hour and a half after that of my body having to put all these resources into digestion. When I wasn't necessarily hungry, it was just time to eat.
Exactly.
Right? And so what I learned about the 3,500 units of energy that I had to release for every pound, that means if you have 2 pounds to lose, 7,000 units of energy.
Yes.
How much is a unit of energy? Let's find out. Let's find out what we can do with the unit of energy.
Exactly.
And then explore what 7,000 of them, or you have 10 pounds to lose, 35,000 units of energy. Isn't your life asking you for that? Aren't your relationships? I don't know why I can't be present. Maybe because you feel gross and you act gross. Like that was it for me.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't doing the work that I needed to do, so that made me regret other things. When I wasn't feeling good, I wasn't acting good.
Yes.
Right? I was taking that, other people were my coping mechanism sometimes for that. And I would just extrovert emotionally on them, right? Rather than having it here because I was more sensitive to discomfort because I was already uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? So when you talk about that releasing energy, because that's what my reports say on the monthly basis, it's like you've released energy or maintained energy or, gained energy. Thankfully, not very many of them have said that.
Yep.
Right? But talk about your thought process rather than losing fat. Talk about how you see that energetic cycle when it comes to actual weight loss, strength gains, all of that.
Yeah. So I have an in-body scanner as part of my practice, which gives us readouts of the amount and location of muscle, the amount and location of body fat, and relative tissue damage, so relative inflammation. And when I started sending reports out, I realized that I was saying body fat went up or down. And when I thought about that from the client receiving it, that is not necessarily an empowering or disempowering language. That's just a thing that's going up and down for them. And some clients saw body fat as something negative. And so they were resistant to allowing any of it to go up, even if they were already super lean. And I realized that I had to have a more empowering language so that people could understand the seasonal cycles for their body and have a language for them to connect to their appetite. And so I started putting on my reports stored energy as opposed to body fat. And the idea of stored energy is that you eat some calories, the calories go into your gut, they get digested and absorbed, you don't use them right away, they go to the fat stores for later. And so it's about teaching people how to access what they've stored away for later. Now is the later, let's learn how to access that. And then as they went through, if they developed some irritation and some tissue damage, their relative tissue damage would start to rise and their inflammation would start to rise. And if they allowed themselves to work on healing that tissue, that means their output has to go down just a little bit and their intake has to go up just a little bit. And so there will be a slow rise in stored energy as they lean in the direction of healing. And so I had to help them realize that while their body is going through a healing process and that tissue damage is healing, they're leaning in that direction and their energy stores are going up. And so then when their energy stores are a little higher and they've healed, they have some buffer so that they can go longer periods of time without having to back off quite as much.
Check out the official Unlock Potential store where inspiration meets style. Explore our exclusive collection of gear inspired by the transformational messages straight from our Unlock Potential podcast. From trendy apparel that embraces the power of positivity to accessories that fuel your motivation. We've got something for every go-getter. Spread the messages of empowerment, energy, and motivation that you get from the Unlock Potential podcast by grabbing your gear today. That's great. That's great. That goes right back to your comfort zone piece as something that caused tissue damage in the past because now it's become normal. It's well within the comfort zone, not causing tissue damage. We actually have to go up to a heavier weight, a different movement to get that same amount of beneficial tissue damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that to me allows us to release that energy and really direct it. Direct it away from excuses, away from resting, hoping one day that all the stars align and I feel better. I can be powerful and present in the moment. I don't have to eat because it's time. I can eat because I'm attached to my appetite. I don't have to sleep because it's time. I can sleep because my body has an appetite for sleep.
Yes.
And it's necessary just like food is.
Yes.
Right? The disempowering beliefs and stories go to everything. Food, sleep, relationships, sex, work. right? And it's like, what are your empowering beliefs about these things? And maybe the presence of disempowering beliefs are causing you not to have a consistency that ultimately would be beneficial, and to maybe have an intensity over short spurts that isn't beneficial. It's actually just creating more chaos and order.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to something that you've said time and time again, I could have sworn that my form, if I would have just changed my form, that I was going to be able to lift more weight. That if I was bringing a bar from knee to shoulder, that, man, it's just my form. And I remember you telling me one specific day in your coachly manner, it's not your form, you're just not strong enough yet. and that has been a change.
Did that one land?
Oh, did it land? It's still in my soul. See, I hold trauma in my hips, and I need to, like, it comes from my hips, just so you know.
Yes.
But no, seriously, that landed because that flipped over. I had a disempowering belief around technique. If my technique is right, I'll be able to lift more weight rather than strength. When my strength is adequate, my technique will be able to be demonstrated at full ranges of motion.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what you were telling me. But you've said something, and we've hit it before on the podcast, but not in this level, not with this application. You say quickest and easiest. Hey, is my form okay? Is it the quickest and easiest way? Quickest and easiest way. Quickest and easiest way.
Yep.
And what I find most people do is they search out the quickest and easiest things to do. Rather than finding the worthwhile work, the impactful work, the work that's going to help them serve more people, that's going to allow them to create, right? Finding that meaningful work and doing it in the quickest and easiest fashion.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that dichotomy and kind of the results of people who follow the empowering, hey, my strength at that full range of motion is going to cause my form to be correct. So I'm going to do it at the quickest and easiest, and those people who choose the quickest and easiest things to do rather than way of doing them.
Yeah. So I think I'll explain the philosophy of quickest and easiest first. If we intentionally move slow, we're wasting time. And so if I'm focused on what the technique is to make it perfect, and I'm doing it slower to make it perfect, I have less time in my life to do more repetitions. I have less time in my life to do heavier weights. When I do less repetitions at lower weights, then I'm weaker. When I'm weaker, I'm not going to lift heavier weights. But if I'm focused on moving quickly, I've got time to recover and I can move quickly again. When I move quickly over and over and over, I can move heavier weights more often. When I move quickly and I move heavier weights more often, I'm stronger. It's not like shocking that the people who move the heaviest weights the quickest are the strongest. And how do you get there? It's simple. Move quick, move heavy. Move quick, move heavy. So we got to go quick first. Now, we could dig into the physiology of that, which is when I intend to move quickly and my body feels resistance against that intent, it sends an all signals alarm. Hey, we're trying to move quick, and it starts recruiting more musculature. Also known in the rehab space as muscle activation. It's quite simply, I want to move quick, this is challenging, I'm going to recruit more muscle. When I recruit more muscle, I end up being stronger. And so I get people to move quickly as opposed to focusing on the technique. Now, the quick and easy is specific to stamina work. So if you're asking me, hey, what's the quickest, or if I'm responding to you, the quickest and easiest way of doing that, it's quite often in response to stamina work, because I want you to move in a way that's quick, but not getting outside your comfort zone. Now, when it comes to strength work, I want you to move quick, but don't do it in a way that makes it tougher than it needs to be. It won't feel easy, but don't make it tougher. And so sometimes what can happen is it looks off, your technique is off. So therefore, I'm going to have you move slow and in a way that makes it tougher so that you feel it in certain places. Well, all you're doing there is you're teaching somebody to move slow so they have less time for work later on. You're teaching them to take something that could be easy and make it tough. Well, what does that look like in the workplace? That's harping on a simple decision with short consequences for a long period of time, instead of, oh, that's easy, make it easy. That's easy, make it easy. So back to exercise, I'm teaching somebody to move slow in a way that's more difficult than it needs to be. Well, how do they know if they're making progress or not? It's based on the feedback of the coach telling them, oh yeah, that's the way to do it. You know how frustrating and disempowering it is to take something that could be easy and make it tough so that it looks good to somebody else? Oh, forget that.
Yeah.
I'm so resistant to that, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
But if I can get you to move quickly and make it as easy as possible, in the long run, you're going to make more progress. Now, specific to technique in that power clean exercise like you were talking about, there are other movements that are supportive of that movement. And one thing we're going to have in the Stay Active Method app is you're going to be able to see which movements you're really good at and which movements are more of an opportunity. They're less developed and need to be more developed. And when those movements that are less developed get more developed, you're going to move differently in the movements you're already good at. And so the power clean, you were very developed at, and the hip squatting to standing and the overhead squatting to standing, you were less developed at. Now, I just had to explain that to you, and it took you some trust to kind of understand that. The app itself is just going to be a diagram that shows you, hey, you're less developed in this area. So you're going to get more of those, and as they develop, your technique is going to look different in the things you're good at.
Yeah, that's Fitness Explained. Go rewatch the last 5 minutes, and you've got Fitness Explained, like true and actual fitness.
Yes.
And that's what we want to do. Is we don't just want to explain fitness to you, but we want to explain the first principles that can be applied anywhere. When I have folks on the sales team who, like in the beginning, because I didn't like dialing, I went slow on dials. Because I was resistant. I felt fragile. My belief was I'm fragile, and if I just hear another no, that might be the end. That might mean failure for me. And so I was trying to have positive psychology and focus on success, but all my environmental return was saying no. And eventually this delusion was breaking apart. So I realized I had to have a different framework that was going to be more helpful. Rather than pretend delusional happiness, bravery, success, why don't I just take it for what it is? Why don't I just look at it for what it is? If I don't like doing dials, I probably shouldn't spend more time doing them, right? If you truly don't like a part of your job, why would you spend all day doing it? Isn't that crazy? But that was exactly what was happening, and that's what I see repeated just in human nature over a lot of people. And what they do is they advance from taking all day to do something they don't like to getting to the place where, for me, when I was dialing my phone and I was booking my appointments and I was doing the things that I needed to do in business, that when I pressed end, my biggest problem was my brain would start when I pressed end and it wouldn't reset to the dial pad quick enough where I could do it without thinking. And so I had to start pressing the back button so I could get more dials in quicker, because I didn't want to spend all day doing something I didn't like but that was the work I necessarily needed to do to get to the things that I did like, which I had less time to spend on those things because I was taking more times on the things that I didn't like.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what a lot of people choose to do is they choose to believe that there's some way around, there's some hack that's going to allow them, I'm not going to have to dial to book my appointments, I'm somehow just magically going to show up to the appointments, and all of them are going to say yes. This is freaking delusion. This is how it works. This is why people go into sales for the opportunity and leave sales, because they can't hang because that opportunity didn't have any blood pumping through it. This is a process that we have to go through, and the way that I learned the process was you get excited, you get frustrated, you get to quitting, and then you resolve. You're excited because of what you project onto the opportunity. You're frustrated when that projection starts to break apart and you find reality. You want to quit because you're not sure if you can do it, and God forbid if you try again and fail. That might mean what you think everybody says about you behind your back is true. What your mother-in-law, what your father-in-law says about you, maybe it's true. Maybe what your wife thinks of you in her less than best moments, or your husband, maybe that's true. Maybe I can encounter. We have to stop being fragile and encounter that and get better at encountering that quicker and easier, because it is a numbers game until it becomes a people business. And that's the same thing in the gym. It is a numbers game. How many days do you show up? It's a numbers game.
Yep.
It's called 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, until it becomes a people business where what happens is people start to expose those things that have caught them or trapped them in the past, and you help free them from that. You help free them from that. And there's a million reasons to stay out of the gym, but I only find one good reason for you to get in the gym, and that's you. That's you. Get into the gym for you because you want to be more useful to your family. You want to be there for them when they need it. You want to be able to walk your daughter, your granddaughter, down the aisle if time allows that, right? But the thing you certainly don't want to do is have your social circle shrink because your ability diminishes. That's what you don't do, because one of the prime indicators of long life is having a large and connected and supportive social circle. When we're able to do less, we connect with less people. That's just a fact. That's going to lead to a shorter life and you missing out on more, and all of us missing out on more of those things that life has to do with it, has for us, because we cut it unnecessarily short by taking a long time to do shit we hate and taking a short, giving the things that are really important only what's left. Rather than the best. And I appreciate you walking me through this whole process so I could stop wasting the time I could stop being in the thick of thin things and majoring in the minors, right? I could start really getting into the work, even though that work had difficulty. It wasn't really difficulty. It was just reality that I needed to learn how to encounter. So any message for those people who are watching, who are currently following the progress, are excited for the Stay Active app, they want to engage more? We have had so many people who have been in our atmosphere who started engaging, and they're fired the hell up after 60 days of being in, 30 days of being in. But yeah, what do you have to say to those people who are still they're sitting in a chair rather than squatting in the work? So.
Deep enough to go strong, strong enough to go deep. There's a cyclical nature to trees growing. They have to deepen their roots in order to support their branches. The branches are what we see, and the roots are not. And so as we expand our reach and we expand our usefulness, there has to be quiet periods of time where we go in and we do the work in the darkness, in the soil, in the dirt. The work is done by feeling and still doing what is right. When we feel bad, we do what is right. When we feel good, we do what is right. That deepens our roots. As our roots deepen, we become more useful. Our branches go out, our shade, our fruit, our opportunity for kids to swing from us. And the farther those go, we're going to start to feel when our roots get a little loose. And we'll feel those roots get loose, and we'll go in and we'll deepen them a little bit farther. And it's just a cyclical nature, back and forth, up, down. Feel good, feel bad, do what is right.
If you're tired of feeling low on energy and settling for the scraps, it's time for your personal revolution. We are helping people go from the person that they have been to the person they were truly meant to be, and helping people get to the next level in their life, their business, and their relationships. Follow us. Don't stop being that fast moving, that moving river, and turn yourself into that stagnant reservoir. Continue to be the tree that's deeply rooted, that other people can continue to grow with and grow as a result of. And that's certainly what you've allowed me to do. So fired up. Hope you enjoyed this episode. This week, tell us about not choosing the quickest and easiest activities to do. Tell us about the empowering stories you're telling yourself in order to do things that are worthwhile in a quick and easy fashion. That way you have plenty of time to take care of the minutia, put it out of the way, and get into the relationships, get into the fitness, get into those things that make your life vibrant. Start to age with that vitality and longevity that the Stay Active method promotes and that we're continuing to bring to you so that you can live your best, most full life possible with us as we journey on this path. So thanks so much.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right, have a good one. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Unlock Potential. For exclusive content, make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. Follow us across all socials at @TheBrianDelaney and visit our website at thebriandelaney.com to shop our gear and see what's coming up next.